Okay, so we'll look at the Deformers palette again. This one, again, all of these tools do many different things, and it's kind of fun to just play around with them. I'll go over some of the very simple ones to begin with. So I'll just start with bend. If you drop it in, you see it looks like a cube. This is the perimeter that exists around whatever model you want to apply it to. So if I drop in a cube, for example, the outside, this bend deformer is going to be around the perimeter of the object. Most of these deformers have these little handlebars, these yellow handlebars, and when you grab them, you can manipulate it around. It gives you a little bit of a preview as to what it's going to apply to the shape. Okay, so if I take this and I take the deformer and drop it into the cube, it's going to try to push it into that form. Now, because the cube is a primitive and it doesn't have very many segments, it's just going to kind of twist it really geometrically into that form. So if you want to make more of a smooth shift, if you apply more segments to it, you'll get a smoother shift of space. So if we look at the lines here, now that I have more segments, I get a smoother shift. So if you want, you can have it be very kind of geometric, or you can increase the segments to switch that shape of form. So again, if you grab this handlebar, you can twist it around in any sort of formation. You can really make it, do some crazy things. And once we get to animation, you can animate these things as well. All right. So that's a pretty cool tool to use. The bend. Let's see what some of these other ones do. Twist is another good one. Same idea. You have a handlebar. You move it back and forth. You can see what sort of application it will apply. Drop it onto your cube and it will twist it in that formation. So you can twist it. The other thing that's kind of cool is you can move it up. You can move the deformer up and down, right? So if you just want the top of it to be a little bit twisted, you can do that. Okay. If you want to animate this to like twist and then not twist again, right? You can do that. That's kind of a cool way of turning an object. So you could animate the deformer to do that. You can rotate it as well. So once you rotate it, you get some different kind of crazy things to happen. So if you animated that, that would be pretty crazy, right? But so you can really play around with these things to see what they do. Again, most of these things are kind of self-explanatory. When you look at the objects, like bulge, that's pretty much what bulge is going to do. When you drop it on here, you can make it go bulge out, or you can make it sort of sink in a little bit like that. Okay, so let's see. The top row are pretty self-explanatory. Let's go to melt is kind of a fun one too. What melt does is it melts your object. Okay, it makes it into this sort of flattened pancake. So if you animate the handlebar, and actually I'm going to move it up a little bit here, or down. Okay, when you animate that little handlebar, you can get it to melt down into its form. And again, here with more polygons, the more sophisticated sort of melt that you can get, and also you can increase the strength, the radius, all of these elements you can increase and decrease to get different sort of formations, right? So when you increase the strength out, you can see that. Oops. If you increase the radius, you'll get it to be a different formation as well. So play around. Again, with these things, what you want to do is really just see what they do, play around. Again, you want to make the deformer a child of the object that you want it to shift. Explosion is kind of a fun one as well. If you drop it on here, it's going to, and you animate, move the handlebars out, it's going to break your model apart, and it will push those pieces off into space in different random kind of formations. Okay, so you can, and again, that you could easily animate that. If you wanted to just have a bunch of flying planes in space, the explosion is your friend. Okay, the other exploding one is the explosion effects, and this one does a similar thing. Although it's kind of cool because it will take those faces and make them into little polygon shapes. So now they're actually like cubes and parts, right, that break apart. And this has 3 different handlebars. The outer blue one is kind of the radius that you can get it to explode to. The green one is the actual motion of the explosion, so from 0 to exploding and then also dropping down. Okay, and then the red one is, let's see, what does the red one do again? Oh yeah, the red one, if we go out here, it's going to be a much different sort of exploding palette. So if it's narrow, let's see, explodes out a little bit sooner. And if it's far, let's see, explodes out a little faster. So you can control the different explosion effects by that tool there. All right, some other ones that are interesting here. Formula is kind of interesting. What Formula does is it makes like a water droplet pattern on the surface, okay? And it also is pre-animated. Okay, so you see what happens when you click the play button. It's going to animate a continuum, a loop, if you will, along that surface, right? So, and you can control that by changing the scale of it. So if you make it very small, okay, you'll have lots of ripples. If you make it very large, you'll have less. And you can change each individual one, so you can grab the handlebars and just, if you wanted to be more horizontal, or if you wanted to make it more vertical, you could do that. So you can change the formation there. Also, if you play around with this formula here, you can change things as well. So I don't know exactly what this formula means, but if you change, you make the 2 into a 3, it changes the formation of it. Or if you switch around some of these things, you can get different things to happen. So if I was a math genius, I would know what that means, but I really don't. But anyway, it's kind of a cool tool to play around with. And you could also change the effect of it. So if you want it to be spherical instead, then it will do a different sort of quality, right? Let's see what else we have here. Cylindrical does a different one. X radial. So you can change the face that it affects, right? So the Y radial was the top, because it's along the Y axis. And then the Z would be along the Z axis. So you can change its formation accordingly. Okay, let's see. A couple more here. Talked about displacer, talked about some of these other. Let's just do wind for the last one here. Wind is kind of a similar one in that it's pre-animated along a loop. And so when you drop that in, it's going to be this like slow wave, right? And here you can change the amplitude, right? You can increase this a whole bit so that it makes a bigger sort of wave. You can increase the size. In this case, maybe we'll bring it down so we get more waves. Okay, so you can see that you can get this kind of waving formation. You can change the frequency, the turbulence. All of these things can affect how it is viewed and how it applies to the surface. So again, the deformers are really powerful tools. The other thing is you can have more than one deformer. You don't have to just have one. So you could bend something and twist something and make it wave in the wind. All right, so you can apply more than one to your object. And the thing to do here with these again is just to grab a cube, grab a primitive object, make sure it has enough polygons to play around with, and then just see what happens with these objects. Apply them to the surface. Again, you apply the deformer into the actual model, and then it will change its formation in that way.